Information on the Environment of California, Student Handout 3.2a. Physical features. The California region includes most of the present-day state of California, except for the area along the state's eastern border, which is part of the Plateau and Great Basin regions. Coastal mountains run the length of the region, paralleling the Sierra Nevada. There are more rivers in central and northern California than there are in southern California, many of them converging and flowing into the San Francisco Bay. Forests, rolling hills, flat valleys, and coastal lands define this region. Climate. The seasons range from hot, dry summers to mild, rainy winters. The amount of rainfall varies from north to south, with the rugged northern cliff country receiving the most rain and southern California the least. Water availability. There are more rivers in the north than in the south. There are also several lakes in the north. Animal life. Deer and many small animals like the brush rabbit, pocket gopher, and gray squirrel make their homes in this region. Quail are plentiful in the scrub of grassy hillsides. California sea lions live on the ocean coast. Vegetation. The vegetation ranges from the majestic redwoods and twisted scrub oaks of the northern part of California region to the chaparral of the southern part. Chaparral is a forest in miniature, with most of the bushes ranging from 3 to 8 feet in height. Unlike the desert areas that border this region to the east, the California region has much plant life. Native Americans in their environment, California. Student Handout 3.2d. Before the Spaniards arrived in California in the 1800s, there were over 150,000 Native Americans living there. The Yani were one of 21 major tribal groups in California. The Yani people lived in the hills around Mount Shasta. They were known to be excellent hunters. Housing. Cone-shaped bark houses were made of long slabs of cedar or pine bark leaning against a pole framework. The inside floor was slightly dug out and was 6 to 12 feet in diameter. Sometimes more than one family lived in one of these dwellings. In most seasons, the Yani wore no clothes at all. During the summer, the men wore only a front apron of bark or deerskin. Men who had enough deerskin wore buckskin leggings from the hip to the ankles in winter, while the unlucky hunters wore only aprons. Yani men also had elkskin hats and moccasins of deerskin. Women wore a front skirt of shredded bark that hung down from a string of buckskin. They were famous for their handsome basket hats, which they wove out of leaves. Food. Acorns meant to the Yani what rice means to the Cantonese Chinese, or maize to the Mexicans. That is, the acorn was their main food source. Acorns were found all over California. Pine nuts, hazelnuts, buckeye, manzanita berries, and wild raspberries were some other favorites gathered foods. Salmon and deer meat was eaten fresh or dried. Ducks and geese were also much liked. Recreation. Most Yani games were a test of physical skill. A favorite game was the hoop and pole. The object of this game was to throw or slide a pole into a rolling hoop. Another game involved catching a ring on a stick or throwing a ring at a pin. Shinny, which participants used curved sticks to throw blocks of wood, was quite similar to lacrosse. Cat's Cradle was a favorite indoor game. Values. The Yani were a small tribe, as were all other tribes in California. California tribes also had a tendency to keep to themselves, so that in one small area there could be 10 small tribes of Native Americans with different languages, myths, and societal structures. Also, the Yani felt that there was no need to travel far. They believed in settling and living in one place and getting to know their area intimately. Plenty of food was always at hand, and there was no need to travel in search of game or wild plants. Native Americans with one tribe gathered during acorn harvesting season for celebrations and ceremonies, but usually lived in small family groups during the rest of the year. Native Americans of California. This is the textbook reading. The California cultural region stretches from southern Oregon through the Baja California. Ocean storms bring winter rains to this region. but summers are hot and dry, particularly inland. The California region includes not only the coast, but also the coastal foothills and inland valley, deserts, and the western side of the Sierra Nevada mountain range. Over 100 small groups made their homes in these diverse environments, more than in any other cultural region. Many sources of food. Groups living along the coast of Northern California depended on salmon for much of their food. Farther south, coastal people relied more on shellfish. Away from the coast, groups hunted deer with bows and arrows. They set snares to trap rabbits and used nets to capture ducks. California people also gathered roots, berries, and pine nuts. Most people in the region relied on acorns from oak trees as a basic food. In the fall, women harvested the acorns, shelled them, and pounded the nuts into meal. Water was rinsed through the meal to remove its bitterness. Women cooked the meal by mixing it with water in tightly woven baskets and then dropping hot cooking stones into the mixture. Clothing, houses, and baskets. As they worked, the women wore simple aprons or skirts made from grasses or other plants, or sometimes from leather strips. In colder months, they wrapped themselves in animal hides. Because the climate was mild, California people built simple homes. In forested areas, men used tools made from the antlers of deer and elk to strip large slabs of bark from redwood trees. They draped these into a cone shape to form a house. In marshy areas, people wove thick mats of reeds to drape over a cone-shaped framework of poles. California people wove plant materials into many useful items. They made cooking baskets, storage baskets, sifters, and fish traps. Women used fine weaving and elegant patterns to make beautiful baskets, decorating their work with clamshells and bird feathers. The caption reads, "The California cultural region contains many different environments. Along the coast, huge redwood trees cover coastal mountains. In the inland areas, oaks and berries grow on rolling hills."